And welcome back into OpenLine. We're glad that you're joining us. If you are just flipping through the channels and you've landed here, we're glad that you did. You are at the right place at the right time. This is OpenLine. Ask an expert, ask an attorney, and our attorney is the expert, Kevin Kennedy from the Kennedy Law Firm right here in Tennessee. Kevin, we've got a lot of people on the line with us. We want to get to a lot of these questions.
I know you do.
Here we go. Okay, Joy is on the line with us. Joy, good evening. Do you have a question or a comment for Kevin?
I have a comment to Chuck Long and Mr. Kennedy. Thank you for this show. I've learned a lot watching this show. I don't have a question. I'm going to hang up and let y'all talk to somebody who's got a question. Thank you for the show.
Thank you, Joy.
All right.
We love hearing that. God bless you so much.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks so much for calling in, Joy. Okay, let's go to the lines. Ricky is on the line with us. Ricky, good evening. Do you have a question or a comment for Kevin?
Yeah, I got two small questions.
Okay.
How do you get the electric company to fix your electrical box that's wearing out? And my next question, how do you stop these people? I got a call today, said they're going to debit my account for $300 and something for going online. I don't even know how to do that, and I just hung up. So thank you very much.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Well, the first thing is on the electrical box, you've got to determine, are you talking about a meter? Really, the Department of Electricity just deals with the meters that are on the outside of your home. If that's a problem, then they're responsible for that. You can call Buildings and Codes, and they can connect you to the right people, and they'll get that corrected. If it's the electric box inside the home, if you're renting, then that's the landlord's responsibility. If you saw it sparking or you know it's not right and it's shooting fuses, then you can always call Building and Codes too, because it could have an electrical problem that could ultimately cause a fire. And the second part of that question, I don't know that I can remember it that quick.
Well, I've got a question for you regarding utility companies.
Yeah.
Well, for example, where I live, you know, in a condo, and we have paid something to the utility company to fix.
Yes.
It's been over 9 months.
I knew
since
you were
we
going
paid.
there.
Okay. Do you have any recourse?
Yep. And so when I go back to Tennessee Consumer Affairs, they said, well, this is a consumer. You can file a complaint, and what they do, they have investigators paid by the state. That's their job, to investigate and try to protect the public. So they have a host of remedies that they can utilize if they can. So again, the squeaky door gets the oil. If you do nothing, you will get nothing. If somebody runs into your mailbox, you say, well, they're going to fix it. They tore it up. Not unless you advance your cause and pursue it. I've been down that road many times. I remember the second part of his question. What do you do when these companies try to say, we're going to debit your account? Then you go to the bank immediately and say, that is a fraudulent charge. I want it taken off. And you go to the bank. A lot of times, I can't get anybody on the phone at the bank. Then go to the bank, ask the teller, ask for a manager, keep working your way up, try to get it resolved. That's not right. It's not fair. Do something.
But you just have to be persistent.
Yeah. And if things go completely bad, we've got the Tennessee Commission on Banking. People could file a complaint with them. That's why they're there, to help the general public.
Great information to know. Ricky, thanks so much for those questions. Really appreciate it. All right, let's head back to the lines. Lee is on the phone with us. Lee, good evening. Do you have a question for Kevin?
Hi, I have a question. I've been trying to figure out what the best options are regarding having a neighbor with hazardous trees. She's had trees that have been falling for the past 7 years, and she refuses to cut them.
Okay.
I've talked to my insurance company, and I followed what they told me. They told me to get a certified arborist to review the trees. They've been certified as dead. I've contacted the city code, and they said that it's a civil matter. And so I'm just trying to figure out what the best thing I can do before it causes someone to get hurt, because she had a tree that fell on her house. I sent a certified letter to her. I've just recently been able to talk to her and follow up, but she still refuses. So what are my options?
Well, I'm listening to you loud and clear, and that's for all those who have neighbors' trees that are dead leaning on your house. Yeah. Do you wait till it falls and hurt someone? No, you take a proactive approach. I would have went to codes. I submit to you it's codes responsibility. They have the ability to go in there and put a fine, say this has created a dangerous hazard. We're going to cut the tree down and send you the bill, put a lien on your property. So if you don't get some guy and he's talking right, ask to speak to the supervisor. Because, you know, that's a very dangerous situation.
You know, I bet there are a lot of people that have that exact problem. I mean, you just look around the town.
Wow, hello.
So many, yeah.
And do you know this? Your insurance, so let me talk to those who have dead trees on their property. Y'all know I have quite a bit of property. That is a dangerous thing because if the tree is dead and it falls on a car, who's liable? Because you're going to say, well, that's an act of God. They always say that. But the truth is when you go and show that tree has been dead for this amount of time and it was neglect, how do we get a lawsuit going? Someone's neglect is the proximate cause of your injuries, and as a result of those injuries, you've got damages. It's a perfect formula for the skilled lawyer.
All right, good to know. So thanks for that call, Lee. All right, head back to the lines. Joey, on the phone with us on Open Line. Do you have a question or a comment for Kevin?
Yeah, this is Joey. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear, Joey. Good to talk to you.
Yes. Hi, I have a contractor, 5-year contract on a lease to own on a home, and what I can pay it off for, and it's on Zillow for double what I can pay it off for, and I'm wondering if I'm able to sell it to a private party and walk out with some money in my pocket, or, you know, what's the legalities of that?
Okay, we'll start. First off, you probably need to go to a lawyer, read your contract from A to Z. Does it say you have the right? That's open to interpretation. If it's clear, it probably won't say that. But and if you're involved in one of those contracts lease to own, you should try to get that clause in there. If at any time you want to exercise it, then you have a right to do so. You know, a lot of people say, well, I didn't have the money, but I know it's worth a bunch. Well, then that's where sometimes people consider a partnership. Say, Chuck, I got the deal at 100. It'll bring 600. Why don't you come in, you and I, you pay it off, we'll sell it, and we'll split the money. Chuck says, okay, I'm in, let's go. So there's a lot of options available to you. You start by looking at the documents. Sometimes it doesn't say that. So if it doesn't say that, is it implied that you have that right? Gray area argument. Move on it.
All right, we are entering our second half hour, so if you do have one of those questions or comments, make sure that you get on the line with us as quickly as possible. 737-7587 is the number to call. Kevin, you know, one of the things that we touch on often is what to say, what not to say.
Yep.
So many people involved in traffic stops, that happens all the time, that sort of thing. What should you be prepared to say, and what should you just be careful about saying?
Well, first off, if you get pulled over, I always say as soon as you see the blue lights, whether you're the experienced lawyer as myself or someone else, it gives you anxiety. Something's wrong with you if you don't get your attention when the blues are on you. So the first thing, try to get your composure. Let me come to, it says cooler heads prevail. So if I'm all anxious, I can't think as clearly. Then I keep in the back of my mind, never admit to anything. And they say, well, can I search your car? Never give permission for them to search your car. So those are two things. And quite frankly, you might ask if they pulled you, sir, why am I being pulled over? What did you do? You may allow them to give you some information that would be in your defense. And if they write you a ticket, always go to court, because if that cop doesn't show up, you can move to dismiss it and that's it. And I like to say, it's not over till it's over. You're always protecting, and many times you can work this out, and we never get there.
Well, and these days too, I mean, everybody has a phone. Everybody can videotape something, or video something. Is it okay if you're pulled over in that traffic stop to take your phone out and start video?
You can. Now, again, it gets down to personalities. You and I, we were doing this set, so I came and said, okay, Chuck, I'm video. Well, it makes you and I feel uncomfortable. What's your agenda? And so we're very sensitive about that. So you've got to, here's the question. What would a reasonable person do under the circumstances? So if this suspicion is coming on us, remember there are two agendas. Many times the police have an agenda to prosecute, and you and I have an agenda to protect ourselves and our family. Keep those all in perspective all the time.
Well, and even following up on that, this is something very curious about. If you are a bystander and you come upon this kind of situation
Yes.
where maybe it's contentious. We've seen all of these,
Come
on
on.
the news over and over.
Oh, yeah.
Are you able to videotape from just a bystander standpoint?
Absolutely. We still are in freedom of speech, and if that's going on, it's a public place. There's no specific right to privacy. You can put that cell phone, and everybody is doing that there, because it's amazing how many people come to us and they've got the cell phone. They also tell us there's so many cameras everywhere. If you're in the criminal court and there's something that goes on, every business around there, the police are asking for their, and they can issue a subpoena for that and get a copy of that. You can say, well, that's private. That was our family. We're not going to do that. They have powers.
Well, and then now let's move into an area that I think a lot of people have experienced, and we're talking about with maybe some of the insurance companies.
Okay.
So you go to the hospital, you have a procedure, then suddenly you start getting these bills. You say, and we've heard this many, many times, I didn't know it was going to be this much.
Yes.
Nobody told me about this. We ask about this. Do you have any recourse?
You have a right to dispute that. What is common, well, you and I've got insurance. We got in a jam. We went out there. Okay, they said, do you have an insurance card? We throw the card. We're good to go. We paid our premium. Well, then they say, well, guess what? That is out of the plan and it's not covered. Well, in that situation, you can appeal it. Say, y'all never told me. We have a right of due process in America. You have a right to know what this is all about. And so many times the doctors will come in and they'll throw down this form and they'll say, here, sign this. This is informed consent. Chuck, we are dying. We don't have time for anything. Work on me. So is that really an informed consent? I submit to you, no. It's under duress. And under duress is one of the defenses to a contract, that somebody put a gun on you, sign that deed. Well, public policy dictates you shouldn't have signed the deed. You can't coerce me. And then even for older people, they say, you do it, or else. Well, they didn't pull a gun, but yes, they did use coercion. So you're always looking. That's why you should talk to a lawyer and say, what are my options? Tons of options. And here's what Kevin Gibney says: creativity will always beat out the analytical. Those are the guys who can think, well, I'm going to give you TCA. They're impressive, very impressive. But you show me that old-fashioned creativity, that guy will come out in the winner's circle 99.9% of the time.
Absolutely. Once again, if you do have one of those questions, maybe it's not just for you. Maybe you've talked to someone in your family, maybe a son or a daughter. You've talked to your mom or your dad. They've got one of those questions, and you're thinking, here's a way that I can help. Just give us a call, 737-7587. Kevin, and another thing that I think we've learned over these years is how many times people will think something simple. For example, they're thinking, I'm just going to write down a little will, and that way it's taken care of, and now this is my signature, and my will says it all goes to you. So,
well, and we have a holographic will in Tennessee. What is a holographic will? You can write it in your own handwriting, signed. That's a little dangerous because you never know, will it be admitted into the probate court? I submit to you, if it's done in that procedure, it would be. It's too much risk. It's too dangerous. I don't want to take those risks when it's so inexpensive to get a will drawn by a lawyer. What's the difference? When you execute one, the lawyer has to go through a little procedure. Are you Chuck Long? Do you have your mental faculties? Do you know the extent of your property? And do you know who you're issuing? That would be, who are your relatives? Who should inherit from? And Chuck says yes, and I have no reason to believe otherwise. Then we would have two witnesses, and we'd go through it. We watch you sign. We're all in the same room at the same time. Why do we do that? To make sure that this was done properly. If there was a will contest, they'll come back. I want this witness. Did you see Chuck? Yes, I was present. You notarized this. Were you present? Yes. Did they go through this? Yes. So if it's done properly, they can bring in the rock and roll, and it'll stand the test of time.
Well, and what about in those cases where, and we've again had so many questions about this over these years, if someone comes in, one of the children, and they're saying, well, mom or dad wanted the will changed, and then something happens, and then one of the other children is saying, well, I don't think they were competent when they changed that will.
You ought to be a lawyer. I don't want to get on the other side of Chuck. He's too creative. And so, I always go back when there's a will, there's a way. I've been on both sides. I've been there when we had the will and held, and I've been there when we attacked a will. For instance, what you'll see, too, sometimes a caregiver will come in and say, "Oh, Chuck, why don't we do this? Why? Well, you've been so good to me. Let me just leave you this home and leave you this bank account." And the kids come in and say, "Daddy didn't want that." So they'll bring a will contest, and lots of times they're set aside, and many times there may be some kind of negotiation that goes along. We'll give this and let's settle this. And so a great, creative, skilled lawyer is invaluable. You remember, I've said it before, when I've talked to those people that represent the rich, they said, why? They always get the best lawyers and the best accounts, because they pay for themselves. And never say, I'm giving in, they've got it together. No, you seek legal help to evaluate it.
All right, good to know. We do need to take a short break. We don't have a lot of time left in this half hour, so if you do have one of those legal questions and you want to get it answered on the air tonight, make sure you call us at 737-7587. We'll take a short break and back with your questions right after this.